Welcome to the worldwide headquarters and studios of All Duke Sports Talk, where all Duquesne sports fans can unabashedly and fully indulge in everything Duquesne University sports. So, without further ado, let's get to it. And let's go Dukes.
Hey, Dukes Nation. Welcome back to your favorite podcast and YouTube show, All Dukes Sports Talk. Once again, I'm Bob Healy III, joined as always by Rudy Longarini and Nick Frost. And our guest this week is none other than Roxanne Watson, maybe the biggest Dukes fan out of the four of us. And that's really saying a lot. That's saying a lot. Roxanne, thanks so much for joining us. Where in the country are you coming from to join this call?
New York, baby.
How about
We're
that? Now,
bi-coastal. We are
That's
bi-coastal.
yeah, we're touching both oceans. Roxanne, are you originally from that area?
Yes, I am from New York, born and raised.
Now, give us your story of how you ended up at Duquesne and what you did there and how you became such a fan.
No problem. My story at Duquesne starts actually in '72 with John Senecola and Red Manning. That's the way it started. I met John in New York when he came to recruit Lionel Billinger. And Lionel was my boyfriend and then my engaged buddy. And we got married right after I got out of school. And that's when I came to Pittsburgh. I came to Pittsburgh in 1972. So he was, remember then, there were freshman teams and varsity teams. So he was on the freshman team because he couldn't play on the varsity. You remember that.
The big train.
That's it, the big train. That was my guy.
And you were on the cheer squad, Roxanne, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, absolutely. 1973, I was on the cheer. And I was a basketball player too.
That I didn't know about, actually. Can you tell us about your time with the Lady Dukes then?
Yeah, what happened with that was, if you remember, not that you remember, but in '72, we were fighting for Title IX. And we went to Red and John and we sat down. There was four of us, four ladies. We went to him and we said, we want to play basketball. And he's like,
oh, wow.
What? I said, yeah, we want to play basketball because I found out that I was a cheerleader since junior high school, but I found out that I couldn't cheer as a freshman. So I had to wait till sophomore year to cheer. So I wanted something to do when I was a freshman. So I went to John and them and I said, we need to have a ladies basketball team. And they were like, they weren't too keen on it. But I said, we need to do it. And like I said, it was a time of Title IX and they felt like, okay, we'll try it. So we had a little club team. We told them to go out and find us some people to play. And they did. We played Pitt and Scranton. We traveled around Western Pennsylvania is basically what we did. With some of the moms drove us in the cars. It was hilarious. We didn't even have uniforms when we started. We just played in our gym stuff.
That's amazing. I have to say that because we are kind of, I came in '74.
Okay.
And so you're 2 years removed from me.
Mm-hmm.
I got to see Norm and you did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So tell us about that.
Well, the funny thing is I met him before when they actually were recruiting him. Now I think about it. His aunt lived in, I think in Monroeville, if I'm not mistaken. But his aunt lived in Pittsburgh. And he was still trying to decide what school he was going to go to. And when he came there for that, his recruitment weekend, so to speak, it was freezing cold. He didn't even have a coat because he came from Macon, Georgia. So he knew nothing about the cold. And it snowed that weekend too. So we were like, come on, don't let the weather, because he was hemming and hawing there. But his aunt is the one who, pushed it over the edge for him to come to Duquesne because, he had family there. And that made a big difference for him. And then he, a couple of weeks later, we found out that he was coming and they were so excited. They really were so excited. And then he came back in the fall of that year, he came back. He was a great guy, just a
You
good guy.
developed a friendship with BB, I understand, on Facebook currently, but beforehand, I imagine.
Yeah, I listen. I go all the way back to the Twins. The Twins played the year before I actually got there, and Jared Durham. I went all the way back there, and then when we came in, Norman came in 1 year after me, really 2 semesters after me, and then oh God, so many of them. Ruben Montanez was there, Oscar Jackson. Oh, it goes on and on. All of those guys were there. Jack
Roxanne,
Kojic.
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no problem.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to ask for clarification, your first year playing basketball, was that Eileen Sertival? Was that the 1974 season?
Nope.
73, 74? You were before that.
Right. We were club. We weren't even a regular team. We were a club team.
Okay.
And like I said, we didn't even have uniforms. And we went and we played somewhere. And Red found out that we were playing without uniforms. And they got some alumni to chip in and bought us some uniforms. And the moms are the ones that drove us to the games. I remember
Wow.
going up to Niagara. I remember going to Scranton. Someplace in Erie we played. We played Pitt. They killed us. We were horrible though. We were just horrible. We were having fun, you know.
Mhm.
I don't think we won a game at all ever. Pitt beat us 70-14. I remember that they put a whipping on us. But we were having fun and we wanted to do something instead of just sitting around, waiting. Because there wasn't much for the women to do. There weren't all the teams and that they have now.
Right.
And we wanted to take advantage of that and get some exercise in and have some fun. And we traveled, and that was the best part of it.
And look how far it's come since you laid the foundation for the program.
Oh, I love it. I just, last year with Precious and Megan and everybody, it was just so much fun watching those ladies play. It really was. I enjoyed every minute of it. It was so great to see that. I'm not happy with nobody in the stands, but that's a whole nother story.
You know what? We're gonna get to that actually, because I, like a lot of people, know Roxanne from Duquesne basketball, the Facebook group, or any other message board for Duquesne fans, and we're gonna let Roxanne vent about that in a little bit here.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of, I know Roxanne, you were critical of the student section at the last men's game at home against Dayton, and that's where we'll pick up where we left off last time we had a show. It was before Duquesne lost these last two games. Today, Sunday, January 26th, when we're recording, Duquesne lost 65-63 at Fordham. But the home game on Tuesday, the 21st, against Dayton, Duquesne lost by 20. And frankly, that final score makes the game look even closer than it really was. Duquesne was really never in it. And Roxanne, you weren't too crazy about the student section that game. We're talking a men's game in this instance, that they were on their butts the whole time, right?
Yeah, it's hard for me to watch it as a cheerleader because even though it's 50 years later, I still am, you know. And it's hard for me to watch, especially when I'm not there and I'm watching these games, on ESPN to whatever. And I look, and when you see the camera shot, it looks like nobody's there at all. Just the camera shot. I don't know.
I wanted to rail on that they weren't showing enough crowd reaction and stuff on ESPN, and
Nope.
And sure enough, they let us down. I mean, they weren't there.
It's
I
not
mean,
the
they
first
sat on their
time.
hands.
Not the
I don't
first time.
understand. Maybe I don't understand. In some your educational background, and you study psychology, with the vast background that you've studied and the various colleges and institutions of higher learning that you've attended, explain to me the psychology behind that.
Listen, I went to a bunch of Ivy League schools, and there was more people in the stands at those games.
Wow, man.
No,
Guys, I think some of it's generational, maybe, Roxanne. Like, obviously.
Well, you know what? Somebody made a point to me, which I didn't think about. First of all, when we were there, everybody was on campus. Everybody, all the guys were in St. Martin's or the Towers, the girls were there. Everybody lived on campus, and maybe there was one or two people that didn't. And that made a big difference too, because somebody said, we don't even know these people. We don't see them other than the games. We don't see them on campus. They don't live with us. I mean, that's a point too. I didn't think about that. But for me, it's like, if it's your team and it's our team, own it or not, it's our team. There's no way, especially the ladies doing so well at the beginning, that place should have been packed as far as I'm concerned. And like I said, when I watch it on TV, it drives me nuts. And people go like, "Oh, there's your team, and nobody's there watching them." And I get that. I get that from my friends here in New York, because we're big basketball town, if nothing else. Even St. John's, everybody's packed full, and it doesn't matter what the record is. And people tell me, "Well, Pittsburgh's not a basketball town." Well, it won't be a basketball town if that's what we show. Why would somebody want to come and have nobody in the seats? The portal doesn't help us either. That whole thing.
Shout it out, girl. Let me tell you, I'm right behind you.
At all. You don't even know who's going to be there next week, much less next year.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the game. Tell us about the game and what you thought of it.
You were at the game today in the Bronx, Roxanne?
Fordham, and I'll be there for the ladies on the 19th too.
Were you at the Fordham game?
Huh?
Were you at the Fordham game?
Today I didn't go. Thank God.
Okay. I was just curious.
So the Dukes lost that game by 2. A late 3-pointer by the Rams pulled them ahead and Duquesne had a chance to tie the game at the end and could not get one to fall. That's where we'll start. By the way, I wanted to remind folks that we want to put more and more into the podcast, into the show as we can. We can do that if we have sponsors and supporters. So you can certainly reach out to us. Healy971@duq.edu if you're interested. HEALY 971@duq.edu. I'll field that. Also, make sure you're subscribing to the show and then like it, share it. Right, that all that traffic helps. So the Dukes losing 65-63. I'll go to Nick for your reactions first. Nick, that was a game that the Dukes could have won, should have won. They were favored going in. Fordham was 0-6 coming into the game in the conference. They're now 9-11 overall, so they match the Dukes in terms of overall record. That's what the Dukes have fallen to. But just a very winnable game. Your initial reactions, Nick?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that we lost. We didn't deserve to win. We every statistic that you would look to show hustle or the little things that lead to winning. I heard that from Dr. Giannini so many times during the broadcast. Is Fordham keeps doing these little things that are winning plays, and Duquesne was not, and they were letting them run past them for rebounds and the free throws discrepancy. Which, I mean, that's the story every game that we lose, but it was bigger than that. They had defensive lapses. They were playing like they were at the beginning of the season. It's like they went into this game expecting they could just win just based off of talent. And hopefully this shows that they can't do that. No team the A10 we're not good enough to do that against anybody. Fordham was the low of the low of the A10. So hopefully this is the wake-up call. I was hoping Dayton would be, because they had a similar performance against Dayton too. They went back to not really covering 3-pointers well. Offensively, Trey Dinkins and Jayshawn Corbett have kind of been forcing things, I think, in trying to Jayshawn went 1 for 6, I think, on the first 6 possessions to start the game, trying to drive in. And then Dinkins was a defensive liability today. Extremely down. I react to what I see, and there were a lot of bad things today, and especially against Dayton. But like I said, I focus more on the tight games to give the real analysis.
Roxanne?
Yeah, I see I was looking at the stat line, and I see a lot of, I just was comparing minutes to output, just offensive output. And there were people that were out there for 7, 8, 10 minutes, had nothing. A whole bunch of them, just like about 5 of them had no points at all. let's say even if somebody would have gave us 2 points or 4 points of that would have helped us. I mean, just to lose by 2 points is the worst. It really is. And again, I agree. That's a team that we could beat in their gym.
Rudy, your thoughts?
Well, guess what, guys? I had an important appointment, and I did watch the game. And then I came back, read the message board, and saw the stat lines of the box scores. Man, I haven't watched it.
Don't waste your
I got
time.
all I needed to hear. It was a total S show, as you might imagine. And so I haven't watched it. Maybe that's what maybe they should. I don't know what they should have done after that game, but maybe they should have watched it or they didn't watch it like I didn't, and sort of flushed it down the toilet or whatever. But it is what it is. We were in the game. Rozier had a good game.
13.
13, 13. I think it says 11.
11.
But and I think Cam had a good game. And if we just would have had a couple things fall our way, and free throws, damn it. I don't understand that, man.
Mm-hmm.
The
free throws it's been a problem all year, but I'm gonna be a bit of an apologist, although I mostly agree with Nick that we didn't deserve to win. We were out rebounded 41-27, and that was evident by just 16 offensive rebounds for Fordham. We only had 10 of those, but also there were some flops. I thought Fordham flopped a few times and got some calls, especially late, and you look at the numbers, they shot 24 free throws. We only shot 14. The fouls were, we were called for 18. They were called for 11. Now, sometimes they were drawing fouls, and maybe that's because they had second opportunities like they were getting.
Yeah, but we had no three. We didn't get off enough threes. We only got off 12 threes, I think I read.
Right. They got off 22. Now, they only made 5, of course, the biggest one being at the end to win the game. But, let's stick with the 3-point defense, because although today, Fordham didn't make that many, they made a real big one. The Dayton game, it was incredible. I went to that game with my oldest daughter in person. I finally convinced her to come with me to a game, and that's the one we went to. The most fun we had was eating 2 of those big crumble cookies they sell on the concourse. That was the highlight, because, Dayton's first 2 3-pointers, they hit the rim, the backboard, the rim again, and then fell in like nothing. They couldn't miss. I mean, Dayton at one point, I think, guys, Dayton was something like, gosh, I want to say they were like 11 for 15 or something crazy, and they cooled off a bit in the second half when it was over. But is that 3-point defense and it rearing its ugly head again like it was at the beginning of the year? Like Nick's saying, they're reverting back to that? Or was Dayton just hot? What do you think, Nick?
I mean, I think it was kind of a lack of mental focus this week. I really do. And I was kind of disappointed in the post-game presser from Rozier and Drew Joyce, where they kind of said it was going to be a one-off and it wasn't going to happen again. And then, I mean, they really didn't change all that much. I honestly thought today we didn't defend the 3 all that well. Fordham just missed them. So that played a role too, where I don't know. Net just covered the 3 well. He struggled down low today on defense. Kareem was probably the only player that I could point to with so many more positive remarks today than negative. And from the 3-point defense, I mean, we talked about it last week that do we need DeMichael? This is the area that he excels in more than anybody. Yeah, and like I said, it seemed like Dinkins was getting beat a lot in the first half of this Fordham game, and I think he was getting beat a lot on the defensive end when it came to 3-point coverage.
Yeah, they did shoot 22 of them, so, had they made more, it might not have even been this close. Roxanne, where does the team go from here now that they're, you're sitting in the top 4 of the conference kind of pretty, and then here now comes Dayton, Here comes
Everybody.
here comes
Here
St.
comes
Joe's,
everybody. Think
right?
about it. Everybody's coming. I mean, why wouldn't they come after us? We're the champs. There's no reason why everybody wouldn't be ready to play us. I don't get that part of it. Everybody wants us, and that's not going to change.
Duquesne now 4-3, so tied with Dayton. Dayton, of course, has the edge in the head-to-head. St. Louis at 5-2, and then VCU and George Mason up there at 6-1. Duquesne's in that mushy middle. Also, UMass at 4-3, and then you got a bunch of teams with 3 wins: Loyola, GW, Davidson, St. Joe's, LaSalle, Bonaventure, and Rhode Island each have 3 wins. So we're just in that pack now.
In the middle.
Last year they pulled themselves out of that, to still win the whole thing. But it's not encouraging, as Nick said. Sometimes you learn more through losing, because you don't just gloss over it with, oh, we got an ugly win, and you shake it off. Rudy, where does the team go from here in terms of improvement, in terms of where to refocus? They have it's all conference games here on out, of course, and they're going to go to St. Joe's on Wednesday the 29th, just a relatively quick turnaround, this Wednesday night at 7.
Well, 3-point shooting and 3-point defense, and getting out on your man. And the guy in Fordham kept driving through us.
Duquesne, former Duquesne player, Jackie Johnson.
No,
Right.
well, that and the other guy too, the point guard, I think, Mandorf or something. Where's his name was?
Oh, Jafet Medor.
Mandor, right? He
Double
kept on.
check.
He kept on pushing the pace, and a couple of times, basically, we had to foul him. Because he was past us. So, yeah, I mean, just D. I mean, we are not going to light up. We are not going to. We have to do it as a team. There is not 2 or 3 people on this team that is going to resurrect us and make us right. It's got to be a team effort, and it was lacking today. And it was, obviously, I don't know, because I didn't see the game, but it was lacking on, obviously, against Dayton. So what they got to do is, like I said, find the formula that was successful before. But the thing is the success was Dinkins and Crawford and Colbert. Colbert didn't particularly have a good game today. Yeah. So
isn't that where we have to bench people? That's when the other people have to step up, right?
No, you gotta perform when you're in there. That's all. You're gonna get your minutes because look, Rozier and Dinkins basically shared the point guard. And by the way, that's a good idea that Rozier is with the point guard while Dinkins is the shooting guard. That's very smart. And the thing that I hate about what happened on the last possession, that we were taking the ball up the court, I think Rozier should have taken it up the court. If I'm not correct, Dinkins took it up the court and basically drove and tried to make a mid-range shot that bounced off the rim, and obviously we got, but we couldn't put it back in. So we could have tied the game right there either way. The thing is that I think that you start off Rozier bringing the ball up, make him the last person that touches the ball before the shooter. And, be it Crawford or yeah, that's what I would have done. Am I wrong or am I right? Tell me. Tell me, somebody.
I think Rozier's having the best season of his career. He's the junior now. The guy's averaging he's at 7.4 a game through today. We know what he's doing, assist to turnover ratio. He leads the team in steals.
He only had two assists though.
Yeah, no, today notwithstanding, I think, but he did score today. And Rozier has been, to me, like he was mentioned on the broadcast a lot, as well as, what he brings to the team from a leadership role, but actually playing on the court, he's been one of their better players. He's arguably maybe like a second or third team all conference guy. But he does lack, height. He lacks length, and that doesn't help their perimeter defense. DeMichael was mentioned on the broadcast as well as maybe as being Duquesne's best player. I don't think that's necessarily wrong to say that. He just, that he might be Duquesne's best player, talking about full court end to end. But DeMichael's, we haven't seen him now in almost, a month and a half. There's word that he might redshirt. I think at this point, if you think this is a lost season, maybe you do that. Maybe if you don't think this team has a shot at a double bye, you go ahead and do that. They just certainly didn't help their case this week. I want to go to Nick for his opinion on this. Like, does these two losses set them back to a point where you're like, you know what, have Jake continue to just sit out the year, or does it create an urgency, maybe, Nick, that you need him back?
I'm going to be stubborn with my viewpoint of if Jake's ready to go with like 2 weeks left in the regular season or a week and a half left in the regular season, he can go. But if he's not ready,
the ceiling for the team's that high that you think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think this team collectively can make just as big of a run as the team did last year, even without the top end stars of Day and Trey. I mean, when we're playing our A game, we can beat anybody in this conference. I still believe that. It's just we have not been anywhere close to our A game, and we're going to need it against St. Joe's. We brought it in the first matchup at home, and if you're looking for a defensive improvement, they're arguably the most complete team that you have to defend well at every position. So that'll be a good test to see if we're ready to bounce back or not. Now, if we go out and keep playing like this, then yeah, maybe it's not worth bringing him back. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, the men's team, of course, has a chance to right the ship. A couple of conference games coming up this week, so make sure you check those out. If they're on campus, Roxanne wants you there, and she wants you loud. So, and Roxanne, when do we get you back on campus? Did you say you're coming back to Pittsburgh?
I'll be there next Saturday. Was that the first?
So Duquesne plays UMass at 2 p.m. on Saturday,
Yep.
February 1st.
I'll be there.
She'll be there. And you know what she looks like now. If you see this lady, you better get off your butt and cheer.
I take pictures with everybody.
I hope to see you there. I coach basketball on Saturday, so I might have to miss that one. But the Wednesday game is ESPN Plus. I think, and that game's on the road, of course, at St. Joe's. And Duquesne's home at 2 p.m. Saturday against UMass. That game will be on Sportsnet Pittsburgh and then ESPN Plus out of the market. I do think that there's an argument to be made, of course, that this being generational, not only are there fewer students on campus per capita, so to speak, but there's also like a higher percentage off campus than maybe when Roxanne and Rudy were in school. But also, of course, guys, they don't have to attend games to see the games. I mean, with the availability with streaming, like you don't have to go. And to boot, guys, there's so much more available to socialize when they're just on their phone. They can connect with people virtually. They don't have to come to the game to have something to do. Whereas, just even when Nick and I were in school, you went to the game for something to do, right? So see people, and now they can do that in other digital spaces. I think that's probably a factor, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. Because
you want to hear a story? You want to hear a slight story? I don't know if I told you, but where is it? Right as I retired, which was like 5 years ago, and I can't even remember what season it was. I've lost my memory a little bit. But I came to visit Danbrook, and I came to Duquesne, walking on the campus and stuff, and people were. I had an old Duquesne baseball hat, and people were looking at me funny. It was during the summertime, I think, and I just retired from Video Max Productions, and I happened to be seen walking in from the Palumbo Center as I was coming out of the garage, and I practically ran the guy over. Okay, I really ran him over, and I pulled over I was trying to make a left, as you know, right there, and and he's over on the other side of the street, and I go to the other side of the street with my car. And I said to him, man, I'm such a big fan of you, and so on and so forth, and what you've done for the program. And so I gave him my card, okay, which had Video Max Productions, and I told him what I did, and so on and so forth, and that I was an alum, and that I flew in from California, and so on and so forth. And so yeah, he said, yeah, come by the office. Like, I can't remember what it was, 3 o'clock or something. So I walk in there, and the first thing so I walk in, and people's looking at me, but they're still looking at the old hat, because I guess they haven't seen that hat before. And so I think the GM, our current GM, is what he walked past me. He walked past me. He looked at me, and are you lost? He looked at me. And so I finally go up to the office. So I get inside of his office. Okay. And the first thing that I'm struck of is that it's a small office. This thing is about the size of what I'm in right now. And I'm thinking to myself, shouldn't this guy get like a bigger office? I mean, he is the main head coach of the main program that we got here. So anyway, I was sitting there and waiting for him. And so I saw a legal pad on his desk. Okay. And I was straining to see, because there was a diagram on there of a play. And I'm straining up, trying to stand up tall, trying to see and lean over to see what's on there. And he walks in. Anyway, what I saw on there was that he believed in the big man tossing it out to the little guy, that he believed, because of LeBron, I guess. And so that was the diagram that I saw, and so he walks in. And so you say about this thing about they have more to do now. Okay. Well, this was 5 years ago. Okay. And so 6 years ago, maybe now. So I said to him, I told him how happy I was, and that I was a big proponent of the message board from way back when it first started. We are now on the third iteration of that board. And I said, and I told him about the fact that, I started contributing videos because that's what I do, video. And I started, contributing videos of the recruits. I was the first one to start doing that on the message boards. So anyway, so I said to him, man, you have basically, you're the best coach we've had. And I told him a story about Ferry, watching him in a game, and he was kneeling down and looking at an opposing player hitting free throws, and they had a close-up of his face. And I was thinking to myself, this guy's got no clue whatsoever, has no fight, it has a bewildered looks in his eyes. And I'm thinking to myself, this is what we got. This is the best we got at Duquesne. So anyway, I told him about that, and I said, because I'm in video productions, cutaways, things that you see in people's faces, I recognize. Okay, so anyway,
Rudy, are you saying that? Are you trying to say this is the guy? We're not distracted shooters enough. We don't have any kind of home court advantage. Is that what you're getting at?
No, what I'm trying to say is that I told him that the way social media is going to go in the future and the way that video is interacting with it, which is already even more and more every freaking day. What I said to him was that in the future, I'm going to be able to buy a hologram picture of myself, of a video of myself in your stands and watching the game from your stands. That's where the future of this is going.
You might
And
be right.
I hate to tell you this, but you know, that's the way that it's going. And so, in other words, I will then be able to turn as a hologram in a baseball cap or whatever, and talk to Jay Walters, who is my roommate at Duquesne University.
Oh
And
my
a
God.
big Duquesne fan. Okay.
Jay's the man.
So
Jay is the
that's
man.
where it's going, man.
Yeah.
And
So what you're
I'm
saying is
telling you that
future is
I'm telling you that this nexus of video and social media is only going to get more diverse, and probably it is that much more incumbent of the fans to turn out, because they got to know that they make a difference.
Absolutely.
That's why you attend the game.
Exactly.
So anyway,
I agree.
enough of telling you my story about Dan brought a meeting. Anyway, we left. I left him my card. I told him what I did, and so on and so forth. And in the odd back part of my mind, as I left, okay, I thought to myself, oh, by the way, I said to him, dude, what you've got to do is you've got to hire a full-time producer, video producer, that's going to be on the staff that does nothing but Duquesne sports. Okay.
Well, you know what? Believe it or not, they have that. They have
And
people.
exactly. That was 6 years ago that I suggested that. And he, that year, 6 months later, he ran an ad for a video producer position that would cover Duquesne sports. And the main thing would be Duquesne basketball. And that's what I said to him. And I tried to pitch him a story. Oh, man.
Well, Rudy, that's how we'll get you back in Pittsburgh full time. You heard it here first.
Anyway,
have
I'm
working
sorry.
for Drew Joyce.
All right.
Well, let's move into women's basketball, which Roxanne has been talking about, former Lady Duke, or Duchess as they were called then.
Yes, we were the Duchess.
You're probably and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I don't put words in your mouth. You probably feel a closer affinity to or rooting interest in the women's team. Am I wrong?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, what do you think of the ladies so far?
There was so many years that, it was all about the men. I love the ladies. I love the way they hustle. I love the way they work together. And Bert, there's nothing I can say. I love him. He's the best. That's a person who stays in touch with people, alumni, keeps everybody in the loop. And I think that makes a difference. There might not be as many people sitting in the stands to see them, but all of the people in the stands that are there care about them. And that makes a big difference. It really makes a big difference. He has reached out to me many times, and he didn't have to do that. I'm here in New York. He didn't have to do that. When you come into town, and when they did the 50 years, I wasn't included in that really, because I was really 51 or 52. I was in club basketball, and they made sure they included me in it and came and got me and everything. That's what you want. That's what you want with your alumni. And that's the difference to me. It's, I don't blame the kids too, alone. Alumni got to get going too. When you see people going to Duke games and St. John's games and St. Peter's games, those stands are not just students. They're not just students. So I love them. I love them because they include everybody, and they play hard. They play hard. And, they get their rewards. And there's some games that they've lost that have been disappointing, but oh well. You can't say they're not out there hustling. I like them. I like that team. I like the team last year too. Think they did a good job.
Well, the Dukes ladies are now 13-6 overall and 4-4 in the conference after a 67-57 win on, I think it was Wednesday morning, actually, right? 11 a.m. tip-off at LaSalle. Duquesne winners over the Explorers, who fall down to 1-7 in the conference. So the Dukes took care of business there with a 10-point win. That game actually probably wasn't really that close. The Dukes were in control the whole time, led, of course, by none other than Megan McConnell, 8 of 14 shooting for 20 points. Megan doing her thing. That was the only game that the Dukes have played since we last had a podcast, and the Dukes don't play again until 8 p.m. At home against VCU on Reed Smith Student Appreciation Game. That's Thursday, January 30th. That game will be on Peacock, but of course you got to get there in person to watch the Dukes ladies. We've had a number of people tell all of us individually like how much fun it is to watch the women's team play with their relentless joy and their up and down the court. Nick, I want to come to you for your thoughts on the win at LaSalle, and then maybe what the Dukes ladies need to do with this break of theirs to gear up for the stretch run and put themselves in a nice position in the A10.
Yeah, one is continue working on getting better every day on your own plays, kind of finding your own identity. So much of the season is spent scouting the upcoming opponents' plays and how to respond to that. This is a time where they can actually focus on themselves and how to make their offense flow better, how to make their game better as opposed to just reacting. As far as the LaSalle game, the bright spot that I did want to mention, Faith Walker putting up 10 points off the bench as a freshman big that they will need, especially if one of our other bigs it gets in foul trouble or anything. We're kind of short on that end of the roster right now. So her emergence could be huge for any potential run in the A10 tournament or beyond. I mean, they did take care of business as they should, but playing in those 11 o'clock games with all the school kids screaming their heads off, that is a loud environment. We lost to VCU in a similar setting. We came out with a win today, or not today, but earlier this week, and it's tough to beat a bunch of little kids screaming their heads off. It is.
Dukes at 4-4 in the conference are 2 games out of the number 4 spot, which is that coveted, last spot of the double bye. That belongs now to the Rams at 6-2 in the A10. They trail St. Joe's and George Mason at 7-2, and Richmond is right now the cream of the crop in the A10 at 8-1. So the Dukes at 4-4 find themselves also behind Davidson at 5-3 and Dayton and Rhode Island, who are at 6-3. Those teams just a half game behind the Rams. So the Dukes are in that mushy middle, but they have plenty of time left to move up, of course, in the standings. In addition to the VCU game on Thursday at 8 p.m., the Dukes will play at St. Bonaventure at 1 p.m. on Sunday, February 2nd. That's the next time we'll record a podcast, and then there's a whole another month left at that point for positioning. It's definitely that stretch run time of the season. I want to go to Rudy real quick for maybe some final thoughts on the women's team before we go to our next topic. Rudy, anything left about the women we haven't talked about?
Well, I a good win against LaSalle. It was expected. They got balanced scoring, and I think more of the same, and therefore I think that McConnell, I'm surprised that they don't make more of her game. That Pittsburgh basically, other than us, isn't talking more about her. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, actually,
I don't
Rudy,
live in the local media.
Yeah. See, that's actually this week she's gotten a lot of good press. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's been really picking up. Roxanne, you gonna have a chance to come see the ladies in person?
Yes, and then I'm also going to see them at Fordham. Already made arrangements to get there when they come here to the city.
Very cool.
Yes, I'm definitely going to be there. It's Heart Month, so that's taking me away from basketball altogether. I'll be in Washington. Matter of fact, I'm coming to the game on Saturday, and then Sunday I got to go to Washington D.C. to lobby for Women's Heart Health. And Coach Burt, he's just like, I sent him stuff for the heart disease and stuff. He's just amazing.
Tell
I
us a
can't
little
think
bit
of-
more about that, if you could, about this next coming February being Heart Month here in the
Well,
United States.
well, heart disease is not getting better. I wish I could say that, but right now, almost 50% of the women in this country are going to have some form of heart disease in the next 5 years, and that's just not acceptable. It's still the number one killer of men and women in America, and we got to do more about it. We really do, because it's just, look, I waited 2 years for a new heart. I got a heart transplant. I had to wait 2 years, and that was not fun. And that's why I lobby for it, to make sure that we are educated about heart disease and we're taking care of ourselves. And if we need to have an organ transplant, then those organs need to be there. So that's what I do. That's exactly what I do. So,
Sorry guys that my computer dropped for a second. I came back in and heard Roxanne talking about organ donation, and actually she and I share that passion for organ donation. And you guys, it doesn't take much to sign up to be an organ donor.
2 minutes.
The Center for Organ Recovery and Education, or CORE, if you visit their website, you can read about how you can be a part of that. Obviously, when your body becomes a cadaver and you have organs that are available to use, that can be on your driver's license. That's one way you can help people who needed a transplant, like Roxanne did. Roxanne, you probably don't know this, but I donated my liver to my former father-in-law. So you can be
Oh,
a
I do.
living donor.
Yes.
Kidneys, livers, and the liver grew back. It was, obviously it's a big procedure, but it was life-saving. So
Um,
thanks for
and you
mentioning that, Roxanne.
your and Bruce Atkins is a advocate for CORE. If you didn't
Oh,
know that,
wonderful.
yes, he's an advocate.
Yeah,
So
Bruce was a great
you have,
player.
you have a Duke in the house.
Roxanne, what is the can you remind us what you do in New York? I think if I'm not mistaken, you get some airtime out there, correct? You're a person on
Oh,
air.
I have a radio show. I have a radio show.
And what is it?
It's called Michael's Gifts. Can you see the gentleman over my shoulder?
The soldier or the sailor?
Yep, yep. Let's get him
Tell
up
us
here.
his story.
This is Michael. That's my donor. I have his beautiful heart.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes, he saved five of us. And
Wow.
I got the best part. He saved a little girl, a little Hispanic 5-year-old girl with one kidney. African American boy got his other kidney. 42-year-old Jewish man got double lungs from him, and a 62-year-old Chinese man got his liver. And I got the best part. He passed away in a motorcycle accident. He was active duty in the Coast Guard, fireman, and his last wish, he signed up in three places. He signed up in the Coast Guard, he signed up in New York, and he signed up in New Jersey. So there was no doubt. His mom and dad took 15 minutes to make the decision to save five lives, and we're all still alive.
Yeah. Well, you can't take those organs with you. That's a wonderful
No,
thing. And thanks for sharing that story. Um,
sure.
So keeping with some Duquesne talk, we want to talk about a couple of other Duquesne sports. So we'll pivot back to that for a moment with the football team. There's not much happening with football team in terms of obviously anything on the field right now. Recruiting hasn't, it seems to have plateaued. I did get a little bit of news about the quarterback I mentioned last week. The young man who's joining Duquesne as a quarterback recruit. I found out that he actually did enroll in classes this spring. So it appears that this young man, let me grab his name because I'm drawing a blank, but he is going to be a gray shirt, which is a trend. Tyler Soles is his name. Soles. He's a quarterback from California, 6 foot, around 200 pounds. Great numbers. I mentioned them last week in terms of bench press, 40-yard dash. He seems like a very good athlete pound for pound. So Tyler went to a community college after his high school career for one semester and then transferred to Duquesne this spring, apparently. Some of the players on the team are telling me. So Tyler hasn't played any football yet in college, and I believe since he was a JUCO, coming here now, this is where his clock starts. So he gets to have a spring semester with the football team and enjoy spring ball, and then not really be, a true freshman in the fall. He can have some experience with the team. And so maybe Tyler Soles, like we're seeing out a lot of college players these days, taking what they call a gray shirt semester. maybe that's the plan, is that Tyler
Good.
might be the future quarterback for the Dukes. So that remains to be seen. Some other Duquesne football news. The Dukes,
Can
we
I
talked
jump in a
about.
second? Can I jump
Go
in a
ahead,
second?
Roxanne. Yeah, please.
Our football team, when we were here, we won, and it was
Yeah,
close.
won the whole thing,
Yeah,
1977.
we won the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
Or wait a
awesome.
minute. It was 1973, right?
Mm-hmm.
77 they
Yeah,
were runners up. 73 they won
yeah,
the whole thing. That's right. The National Club Football
we
Association
did.
champions.
We
We actually
did.
had Judge McVeigh on the show, who was a
Mhm.
Duke right after they won that. Are you Roxanne, Judge McVeigh? Are you familiar
I
with
don't know.
Judge McVeigh? Well, yeah, we've had some Iron Duke.
I
We're going
don't
to be
know.
trying to get some more Iron Dukes on the team, but boy, what a think about what the program was as a club team, and then Division III, and then lower FCS, and now what the Dukes are able to do. The Duquesne Dukes will play the Pitt Panthers next year, right?
I heard.
Which is really cool. And I did some other research and found out that the Dukes are also, not only will they play at Akron next year for another FBS game, but in 2026, the Duquesne Dukes are playing at Air Force on September 5th.
Whoa.
And apparently this is relatively new news. The Duquesne Dukes will play at Washington State on
Nice.
September
Whoa.
19th of 2026. So the Dukes
Nice.
all the way to
Whoa.
Washington State
Moving up.
September of 26. That's pretty awesome.
All right. I'll say this about the football schedule. 2025, it seems like we're keeping it close. We have Pitt, Akron as our away games, and the one non-conference game is Lehigh, a Philly team coming to our neighborhood for the game. So we're staying very local for those 3 games in 2025. In 2026, as Bob mentioned, we're going out to Air Force, which is out west as well. I think are they in Utah, Rudy? Do you know?
What? Who?
Air
Air
Force,
Force is like
Colorado,
in
Colorado Springs.
Colorado, aren't they?
Yeah,
Colorado.
so we've got Colorado
Yeah.
Springs and Pullman, Washington as the 2 trips in 2026. So
Right.
we must have invested all our travel funds for 2026 and kept them stored up for 2025. Women's rowing is the non-Big 3 sport of the week this week. We always try to highlight one. Women's rowing, I think, started around 2010, 2011, I think was the first year that it was brought to Duquesne as part of the Title IX initiative to continue to create more scholarships. They've been around since that time. I remember walking around school actually seeing posters recruiting people to join the rowing team and become a Division I athlete, which was cool. You really don't have that opportunity too often to just literally
Just
walk into a room and become a Division I athlete. It looks like, based off their schedule, March 22nd at Cornell, and then they continue into April at the Connect Cup, followed up by an Eastern Michigan Ford Lake Cup in April, the big competition at West Virginia on May 3rd, and then the A10 Championship May 17th. They did have 2 matches, I guess, in the fall, the head of Ohio and head of Occoquan. Kind of crazy that we don't get to host anything with us having the well-known rivers.
three rivers.
Yeah. So
Listen, I went to Harvard, and when they used to have the rowing meets, both sides of that river would be full like it was a football game.
yeah, I saw there was a movie about the rowing team.
Unbelievable.
Uh, yeah, the Olympic team that ended up winning gold. I don't remember the name of it. I did watch it, and yeah, the river is packed whenever those competitions are going on.
Charles,
It would,
River Charles, just packed on both sides. It was just like a football game. Like, oh, you going to the thing? Yeah, yeah, okay. And
yeah,
you just right down the street from campus. It was amazing.
I mean, we've talked before on this podcast about what if we became a school that was known for a sport that's not as well known. We could be a rowing school with the 3 rivers. That would be awesome to see the entire city come out and see a competition. So
That'd be awesome.
I don't know if Bob's coming back, Rudy, but
Bob is gone.
Yeah, well, keep it going, man. Keep
All
it
right.
going.
Well, that's all I've got for women's rowing. Looking forward to seeing some W's there later on this year. Roxanne, I'll ask you: are there any players aside from Meg that you have any sort of relationship with, or have kind of like a favorite player sort of bonds so far watching them?
Last year, Precious.
Yeah.
I follow her. You know, she's on the Swedish team now, and she's doing a lot of stuff over there. So I follow her.
All right.
And her dad too, actually. Dad is my Facebook friend.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so
I
how
really-
many times a year do you come to Pittsburgh, and what is your modus operandi? I know that you're a radio talk show host yourself. What do you talk about on your radio show? And anything that you want to sign off with, that you want to leave us with, because we're going to be wrapping it up in a sec.
Well, what I do, what I do with in terms of Duquesne on my radio show, always shout out the games when the games are and we wear our gear, wear our sweatshirts and all that other stuff. Cause you know, still got to support my team. You know, everybody knows that I'm a Duquesne fan. I'm loud and proud. And what else we do? We do two things. We share stories about organ donation. It's just amazing stories every week. People come on and tell their different stories, no matter what organ they got or people waiting. We also talk about heart disease. Like all of February, we will be doing heart disease. What I usually would come to Pittsburgh when there were 3 games that were close. It didn't have to be, you know, it didn't have to be the guys and the girls. So I could just stay for, you know, 5 days or so because I have to be back here by Wednesday no matter what I do. So I used to just figure it out, you know, which 3 games were close and come then and stay the whole, you know, 5 days. I would stay this week, but I have to go to Washington for lobbying. So that's why I said I'll come the one day. I have something to do for the Deltas, the Deltas in Pittsburgh. We do a heart disease thing on a panel. Then I'll see the game, and then I'll leave at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to DC and do that. I went to see the president, the last president.
Wow.
I went to DC to meet him, and you know, that's what I do. Just stay out there and just make sure that we save lives. That's what it's all about. Saving
All
lives.
right. And Bob usually has everybody go around and say their final thought to kind of recap what their big thought is from watching Duquesne sports this past week. Rudy, do you want to start?
Well, I just wanted to thank Roxanne for showing up, and I reached out to her, not knowing I saw her on Facebook as a friend to BB, and I reached out to her, and I've always wanted to have a female perspective here to the sports, and me being the producer. You know, I had a free hand in maybe choosing a guest. So thank you for appearing with us, and maybe we could do this again. Thank you, Roxanne.
Hope to see you in Pittsburgh.
And with that, you want to give out a shoo shoo rah rah, and let's go Duquesne.
Where's Mozzie when you need him?
Yeah.
All right, man. Robert's not here to close the show, but you know, I will. So on that note, it's a good night, and we'll see everybody on the next show.
Thanks for having me.
Let's go Dukes.
Let's go,
Yeah.
Dukes.